The entire room explodes at once. Someone jumps off the couch, a drink hits the carpet. 3 people scream at a television as if the outcome on the screen has just changed their actual lives. In the middle of them sits one person holding a slice of pizza, watching everyone else instead of the game. They understand what happened. The score changed. The favorite team is losing. But inside them, nothing moves. No rush, no dread, no sense that we are in danger. Just one uncomfortable thought. What exactly are all of you feeling that I cannot feel? This is what people who do not care about sports rarely say out loud. Their indifference is often treated like a missing organ. Friends ask, "How can you not be into any team?" Coworkers use last night's game as a language everyone is expected to speak. Family traditions are organized around seasons, playoffs, rivalries, and championships. The person can learn the names, understand the rules, and recognize the stakes. But the emotional signal never arrives. To everyone else, the game feels alive. To them, it looks like 11 strangers moving an object inside a set of lines. So why can one person feel personally wounded by a team's defeat, while another feels almost nothing? And what does that difference reveal about the way people build identity, belonging, and meaning? From the outside, sports indifference can look like a lack of passion. The argument sounds logical, but logic is not what sports fandom is built from. The emotional power of a team begins before the game. It begins with belonging. Long before the child understands strategy, they understand that this symbol means us. Sports create one of the few remaining public spaces where adults are allowed to surrender individual identity and become part of a collective body. For a few hours, private life disappears. Bills, loneliness, work, and personal failure are replaced by one clean question: will we win? This is the central metaphor. A stadium is a generator of borrowed destiny, but a game compresses fate into a visible scoreboard. There is a beginning, a struggle, a villain, a turning point, and an ending. The fan does not control the outcome, yet the nervous system experiences it as shared destiny. When the team wins, life briefly feels ordered. When it loses, something larger than entertainment seems to collapse. The person who does not obsess over sports may never connect to this borrowed destiny. They see the contest, but do not merge with it. The pronoun stays they. They won, they lost, they played well. For the fan, the pronoun becomes we. We came back. We were robbed. We are champions. That tiny change in language reveals a psychological fusion. The team's story has entered the person's self-concept. The non-fan's identity may simply be less available for that kind of merger. They may prefer sources of meaning where their own action changes the result. Watching a stranger succeed may be impressive, but it does not produce the same internal reward as participating. This does not mean the non-fan has no tribal instincts. They may become intensely tribal around music, politics, gaming, art, technology, or an online community. Human beings rarely escape group identity. They relocate it. The jerseys change, the underlying machinery remains. That is the first important reversal. Not caring about sports does not automatically place someone outside the crowd. It may only mean that sports failed to become the place where their need for belonging attached itself. Sometimes, the difference begins with exposure. The child who grows up hearing the game from the next room may associate it with warmth, food, celebration, and attention. Another child may associate sports with humiliation. They were chosen last in gym class. They missed the ball while classmates laughed. The event was exclusion. The past experience connected sport with embarrassment or domination. The internal belief became, "This world is not for people like me." The protective reaction was dismissal. The external behavior became indifference, sarcasm, or pride in not caring. Years later, the person says sports are meaningless. Sometimes they truly find them boring. Sometimes, meaninglessness is the explanation the mind creates after belonging became unsafe. This is the psychological chain hidden beneath some non-fans. They are not rejecting a game. They are rejecting the room in which the game once made them feel small. But there is another kind of person. They were never hurt by sports culture. They simply do not receive enough emotional reward from watching competition. The uncertainty that makes a close game addictive to one mind feels repetitive to another. Every possession creates anticipation for the fan. The brain keeps asking, what happens next? The non-fan sees the same loop repeated under slightly different conditions. This person may need complexity of a different kind. They want ideas that expand, characters that change internally, or problems they can enter and influence. A scoreboard settles the outcome, but it may not satisfy the form of curiosity their mind prefers. This is where people misunderstand empathy. A sports fan can care deeply about athletes they have never met. They feel the player's pressure, injury, sacrifice, and final chance. The non-fan may look emotionally colder because that identification never activates. But their emotional energy may be directed elsewhere. The amount of emotion is not necessarily lower. The target is different. The non-fan may resist placing so much emotional energy into an outcome where their care changes nothing. This can create a preference for direct engagement. Spectatorship feels psychologically incomplete because the emotional investment has no reciprocal path. Yet even this explanation can become flattering too quickly. The non-fan may describe themselves as more independent, rational, or present in real life. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is another identity performance. Not caring can become its own badge. They have not escaped tribalism. They have joined the tribe of people who believe they are above tribes. Their indifference becomes a way to feel more intelligent than the crowd. This is the midpoint that changes the picture. The psychology of people who do not obsess over sports is not automatically superior. It can reflect independence from group identity. It can also reflect exclusion, low interest in vicarious competition, a preference for direct control, or contempt used as self-protection. The behavior is the same. They do not care who wins. The internal code can be completely different. A secure non-fan can sit among screaming friends and enjoy their excitement without needing to imitate it. A defensive non-fan needs the fans to look ridiculous. One has no attachment to the game. The other is still emotionally organized around it, only in reverse. True indifference rarely needs an argument. When someone must repeatedly prove that something is meaningless, it may have once held enough psychological power to require rejection. Sports also provide a form of conversation that asks very little personal risk. Two strangers can discuss a game without revealing grief, fear, money, relationships, or loneliness. The game becomes a bridge built from safe material. The non-fan misses not only entertainment, but a social language. This may reinforce the belief that sports are shallow, while the fans experience the same conversation as continuity, ritual, and connection. Neither side sees what the other is actually receiving. The fan thinks the non-fan lacks passion. The non-fan thinks the fan has surrendered reason. But both are responding to different psychological functions. One person receives belonging, suspense, identity, and a clean narrative. The other receives none of those from the game and searches for them elsewhere. The conflict appears to be about sports. Underneath, it is about what each mind considers worthy of emotional investment. Return to the room from the beginning. The favorite team is now 1 point behind. Everyone is standing. The person with the pizza is still watching the people instead of the screen. Earlier, their stillness looked like emptiness. Now it contains several possibilities. Then the final shot goes in. The room erupts. Friends grab one another and scream. For a few seconds, they are no longer separate people. The non-fan still does not care about the score, but they may finally understand what the others are celebrating. Not only a ball crossing a line, they are celebrating temporary escape from isolation. A shared destiny reached a happy ending, and everyone wearing the colors gets to borrow the victory. The non-fan is not broken because the spell does not work on them, but neither are the fans foolish because it does. One mind finds meaning by entering a story larger than itself. Another needs to remain the author of its own. They are not living with different amounts of passion. They are answering the same human hunger in different places. And when someone says, "It's just a game," they may be correct about the rules. Psychologically, it was never only the game.